Hey everyone, I'm Jen, and I own a veterinary technician relief business.
And I'm Michelle. I own a veterinary technician mobile house call business.
And you are
And you are
listening
listening
to
to
Endless
Endless
Journeys,
Journeys,
the Vet
the
Tech
Vet Tech
Odyssey
Odyssey
podcast.
podcast.
In this podcast, we will be discussing and meeting with credentialed technicians who have created their own path with business ownership within the veterinary space.
Our goal is to help inspire burnt out vet techs before they leave the industry altogether through our stories and the stories of other vet tech business owners.
We actually want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Action Vet Tech Services.
ABTS is an RVT-owned staffing, training, and consulting agency founded by Jacqueline Phillips RVT, based out of North Carolina with a nationwide reach supporting credentialed veterinary technicians.
They offer flexible relief staffing, RACE-approved continuing education, and consulting to help clinics and technicians grow.
So if you're a tech looking for new opportunities or a clinic needing experienced support, definitely check out Action Vet Tech Services.
All right. Hello. We are here today. We are doing another official chill and spill. It's been a while since we've done a chill and spill. Our last chill and spill was the swiping for shifts, where we talked about the relief app economy. And we have our first official, so she was actually our first official guest on the podcast. And she's actually our first official guest for a chill and spill. It's always just been me and Michelle, but we have Jacqueline here with us today for this chill and spill. And she also is our first official sponsorship. So she's first for many.
Number one.
Yes. For me and Michelle, she has been one of our biggest supporters during this entire podcast. So we thank you so much, Jacqueline, for just being on our show and for being here and having these conversations, because they're so much fun. They're fun to have, but also with somebody that's as intelligent as you as a business owner, doing what you've done and what you're continuing to do. It's just an honor to have you on here again.
Thank you.
We're super excited.
I love what you guys are doing. So I'm, of course, going to support you.
Awesome. So not long after we did that chill and spill episode, Jacqueline actually sent us an email. And in her email, she just wrote, "I recently listened to your chill and spill, curious about the relief app economy as it's grown in the last 5 years. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this episode. Obviously, my company isn't a national company, but I can relate to some of these as a technician relief company with 35 plus employees. This gives me validation that keeping my company small and controlled with quality is so important to me. I wanted to share some perspectives as a relief tech that started by myself and now has an agency of employees. If either of you have ever been in a position of managing people, you know how challenging that is." So Jacqueline wrote us an email giving us some different perspectives on basically what we discussed on that chill and spill. And she gave us her perspective as an employer. And even though she's not as big as some of the companies that we were talking about, she still could understand their side of things and their perspective of things. So we thought it'd be a great idea to have her on this chill and spill, and we basically get the other perspective of it and have that other conversation, because I think that's really important to see all sides of it and to really just understand that nobody's perfect and everybody has a story. So yeah, we're just gonna go right into it.
I mean, the last chill and spill, I think, was a month or so ago, wasn't it? So I had to look back at my notes and be like, what did we talk about? But you guys touched on, and I mean, you were very fair in your feedback to the technicians that were sharing with you their experience and saying, like, we only know this one side. So it's not like, but I think it is our instinct to protect our own and
Right.
like, oh, like these technicians are being mistreated and we want to protect them. I'm in that boat, right? Like that's what my company stands for, is like preserving and protecting technicians. Um, but one of them was about like being bullied in their relief experience, right? And for my technicians, I definitely talk to them about sometimes when we go into these hospitals, there could be like a mean girl vibe. And that's how I kind of word it in the sense of, you can't walk into these clinics and expect to be immediately respected and trusted and like, oh, you're an RVT. That's not really how it works. So I talk to them about like being humble, and if you care a lot about making best friends everywhere you go, you're going to have a hard time in this job because
Yeah.
it's just not an automatic like, oh my god, you're here. And sometimes my techs don't even get a tour of where things are or who is who, right? As much as I try to coordinate that with the managers of the hospitals and make sure they have a point of contact when they arrive for their first shift. So I would need a little more context on how were you bullied? Like, what does that mean to you? Um, and then on that same side of if my technicians are being mistreated in any way, I always have them share with me what the details of that are because there have been clinics that we just don't work in anymore because their culture is that toxic and they do mistreat us and their own staff terribly, right? So again, like on that side, I would say I would need more context on how you were bullied and if the company you were working for, they didn't support you and, what all does that mean, right? So I guess more details on it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm looking through the notes and she didn't give much. I'm going through my notes that we have on that one
Yeah, there
and
wasn't much
even listening back to
detail.
it, there wasn't much detailed about it. I don't
Yeah.
believe there's any specific name calling or pointing fingers. It was
sure.
just, I was bullied. So I don't think we have much detail, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that might just be a matter of, it was her first shift at the hospital and people were like, "Who are you?" You know?
Yeah, I mean, and I think I had that conversation with Michelle not that long ago where I think I went back and I did relief for a clinic that I've done relief for multiple times, and there were some new people, and they get a little bit threatened.
Yeah.
Um and there's been some tones with me, and
Uh-huh.
there's been some attitude sometimes
Uh-huh.
with certain things.
Uh-huh.
And at the moment, you get your thoughts take over and you immediately you feel all these things. But I know that when I've had those moments, especially doing relief, I kind of just sit in it and I'm like, I know who I am at the end of the day, and I know that I'm not doing anything wrong, and I'm just here to work and I'm here to help, and this is my job, and I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And I think that's something there is that difference too between going and doing the job and knowing that you're not necessarily there to make friends, but then there is that other difference of, oh yeah, they're just straight disrespecting you too. And
Yes.
I've dealt with that even at a clinic where I've had other relief people, like relief veterinarians, come in, and the relief veterinarians are disrespectful to the staff in that sense too. So it's just really common, in the vet field,
It can, yeah, it
unfortunately.
can definitely happen. And I always also share with my techs like the first shift is the hardest, and I always ask like give the hospital a second shift, because I mean generally if you're helpful and kind and you have the ability to deflect bad attitudes and just focus on patient care, focus on what you're there to do, which is patient care, and you sustain your helpful attitude and your good work ethic, then usually by the end of the shift, people have warmed up. It's I think when you start getting defensive or you start getting an attitude that that's going to be a point of contention for you, and you're going to have a hard time. So it does take a level of maturity, I think, is a big piece of that, right? Like being mature enough that you've experienced people throughout your life and you kind of know what to deflect and
Right.
to be passive about, but it doesn't mean you should be mistreated or disrespected either. So there's a fine line, I think, for sure.
Jacqueline, have you or any of your employees ever walked? Because the one thing that really I noticed in that story was she had left early in that shift because of how disrespected she felt, and
Mhm.
then the app the company refused to pay her.
Mhm.
Have you or your employees ever walked out in the middle of a shift because of that reason?
No, not for no, and the rule is kinda with us is if you have to leave for personal reasons, which that is somewhat personal. Again, we need more context on what that situation was, right? Like, how bad
Right,
was it? But if it was for a personal reason, like you had a family emergency, your childcare, whatever that was, if you have to leave for personal reasons, you're only paid for the hours that you worked.
right.
If
Fair.
you go to this shift that you signed up for, it's 8 to 5, and then all their appointments canceled in the afternoon, and they're like, "We don't have anything for you to do, you can go." They still get paid for that full shift because
Yes,
Also
that's what
fair.
they signed up for, and that's what they were committed to. It's not our fault that you didn't have the workload that you thought you would.
right.
That's our rule.
Okay. And that's my rule too. That's what I've always done. There was the time where I had worked, I think I had made 2 of the shifts and then I was really sick. I got sick the first shift and then I worked the second shift, was so sick. And then the third shift, I was just so, so sick and I knew I wasn't going to be able to make it the whole shift. And I
Yeah,
left and they emailed me, the practice manager had emailed me and she was like, "So in your contract, it doesn't say specifically like if we would still pay you for
yeah,
the whole shift." And I said, "No, this was me. This was my personal problem. I was sick. So only pay me
yeah,
for what I worked. I'm not going to make
yeah,
you pay me for the entire shift."
right.
So yeah, it's one of those
Yeah,
things where
like, it's not their fault that you're sick, it's also not our fault that they don't have work. So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But if I had got sent home early, then I would have expected to be paid for
that's
my
right.
entire shift. So,
Yes.
same thing. Okay. So, yeah, I was just curious if you had experienced that.
I
Um,
haven't had anybody walk out on a shift for that reason or for there's definitely been technicians that have called me and are like, "I don't ever wanna go back there. This is what happened today."
okay.
And the examples that they gave me were patient care related and yeah, and, like, ethically, I couldn't support that either. I was like, "Yeah, I don't blame you." Now, the deal is, like, we have to finish what we said we would do. So if you signed up for 3 shifts, like, you gotta finish your 3 shifts. If you choose that you don't ever wanna work there again, that's the beauty of relief work, right? Like, we
Right.
have that choice of where we work and what hours we work. But those examples that they gave me for that clinic was like, "Okay, we as a company don't wanna work for them anymore." So after we fulfilled their shifts, we just don't work for them anymore.
See, and
And
I
it's
think
not
that,
and that's not even something that I communicated to them.
and I,
I didn't have to, right? Like they'll find other resources. I mean, in my opinion, because it's not our job to tell them they're doing it wrong. Sure, if you, I know sometimes, well, a lot of times my technicians will be like, "Oh, have you ever tried this?" You know, but it's a fine line of like patient care and doctors and what's wrong versus standards of care. I guess that's where we could like there's different standards of care and they were not to our standards. Let's say that. Maybe we can't say that it's wrong what they were doing. We can say that it's outdated and the standards are much lower than we as a company of technicians are able to fulfill shifts there and feel good about ourselves.
so you've
Is that fair?
have had those conversations
Yeah.
with clinics.
Uh, I don't feel I needed to have that with that clinic,
Okay. Okay.
but I
I
supported
mean,
my
it's
technicians.
so I imagine it's like a quiet separation thing where you both kind of internally realize like, oh, it's not a good fit, and you just it's like that quiet, unspoken. We just
Yeah,
don't work together. But
yeah.
yeah, I okay,
And if
I
they
can leave
were to
that.
message me, I would just say, "I'm sorry, I don't have any technicians for you."
I mean, that's kind of how you do things, Michelle, like with your business too, like with clients that don't really flow. You haven't really told them specifically why. You just say you're just not a good fit anymore and you've overbooked with other
The
clients
route's
kind of
full.
thing.
Yeah, I always default to that route is full. Or I used one recently that I really liked. Oh God, I don't have the capacity. Those are my exact
Mhm.
words. And do I have the emotional capacity or the physical capacity? So
Yep,
I used
doesn't
that
matter.
in
You
one
don't
case
have the
recently.
capacity.
Yep, I don't have the capacity. Yeah, so
That's
I've done
perfect.
that before too.
Yeah.
If I feel it's a bad vibe, me and the owner are not we're not on the same path. I don't pre-book with them. I always pre-book with my clients to make sure my schedule stays full and plump. And I'm just like, okay, well, if you need anything, give me a call. And I'm like, please don't call. Please don't call. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's fair and it is saying that you are full of a certain integrity when you finish out those shifts, even though you're like, oh my gosh, was
Yeah.
this a huge mistake? But then you just know and you do it and then you can you don't have to go back.
Yeah,
But
well, because I do also see it as an opportunity to influence, and that's kind of like establishing a relationship with the hospital, right? Where maybe it is a little rough around the edges the first couple shifts. And again, they don't know us or, what we're able to do or our skill set. They just know that we're technicians there to help. So sometimes when we are able to have a relationship, we can be an influence because they see we're asking questions and things that they haven't thought of before or ever seen before. And so it gets the wheels turning on like,
mhm.
oh, maybe we should be considering that. We're not saying anything in any threatening way on like, again, we're not saying you're doing it wrong, but we're asking questions because we come from so many different
Yes.
aspects of medicine. And we always preface with like, we work in a lot of places.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I'm doing it how you want here. But again, by asking those questions can sometimes make it like, "Oh, should I be doing
Yes,
that?"
I've had
So
doctors literally do that to
if we
me.
yeah, if we can be an influence in that way of elevating hospitals, then, again, they might come back and look at Action Vet Tech Services, and they also see that we do training and we have VTS on our team and we have, high level technicians that can teach their assistants and their other technicians anything they want. So we have multi-layer resources, but we don't want to be threatening in any way because we respect different modalities of medicine.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, been so many times I've worked in clinics and been like, "How do you guys do this? This is
Hmm.
what I'm used to. This is what I've seen, but I want to know that I'm following your protocol because
Yeah.
I've worked for other clinics that follow different protocols." And then I've literally had doctors kind of and technicians just look at me and be like, "Oh." And like you
Yeah.
said, "Oh, well, N maybe we should be doing it that way," and I was like, "Hey, I'm not judging, there's no judgment here, I'm just literally, like, I'm just asking because I just wanna make sure that I'm following your guys' protocol
Yeah.
correctly." And so, yeah, it is, and I think, like you said, it's a good opportunity for them to learn, and then there's that fine line between staying really humble, but
Mhm.
also knowing that, "Hey, I know what I'm doing, don't treat me like I don't know what I'm doing because I do know what I'm doing kind of thing. So, but then making
Yeah.
sure that you're also treating everybody with that respect as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm curious when we were discussing the other girl stories and it came to call offs and it came to them being in the hospital, what were your thoughts on that with some of the girls? I mean, like what does Action Back Tech Services do when your techs are sick, when your relief techs are sick? Like how is that handled? Because I feel like with one of the women in question, she had a legit hospital note. She was in the hospital. She could put proof there. I am
Yeah,
here. I am sick. And they still that app banned her, which I thought was a little overkill.
yeah. And I think, yeah, again, we need more context. Like, what is the history of that technician with that company, right? Like, is she in the hospital every week?
True.
That's a
Yeah, I
problem,
yep, that can happen.
or is there like, I've had this before where it's like some people just have constant disaster in their life where it's like somebody died, I got in a car accident, my kid is sick, like it is a pattern for some people. And that's what I can speak of from the employer side of whether you have a doctor's note or not, like I have empathy for whatever is happening to you. Life happens, accidents happen, family emergencies happen, illness happens. I get it. And it's not like if you call out sick that you can no longer work for me. That's not how it works. But if you have a pattern and this is repetitive, we have to remember that this line of work, there's no relief to the relief. If these hospitals are calling us, like they're already in desperation and they're probably short staffed more than one person. So when we can't make it, it's a pretty big deal. And if one of my people can't make it, I at least try to, like, get in the group chat and say, "Can anybody else cover so and so's out sick?" And again, like, illness happens. But if you're chronically ill, you chronically have migraines, you chronically have childcare issues, this is not the right type of work for you. You're still qualified, you're still skilled, I still love you as a technician, but this type of work, we have to consider your lifestyle and your priorities.
Good
Is
point.
that fair?
Yeah.
No, that's fair, and, I once worked with one of those, types of person where I swear they just had the worst luck ever. Always
Yeah,
something happened, they were always sick, their kid was always sick, and from just a coworker's standpoint, I distinctly remember, that's when I was in, working in distribution sales. So, in our role, if one of our coworkers are out, your coworker would take over your book of business, so now I'm doing my work and your work, right?
yeah,
And she called off at, like, 9 o'clock in the morning with a nosebleed. And she did go to the doctor and she got a doctor's note. And then I talked to her maybe like a couple hours later and I was like, "Hey, so and so you're coming back in, right?" And she was like, "No, I'm good. I'm gonna go buy a car." Like literally, and I'm not gonna lie, I did snitch her out. I was pissed. I was like, wait a minute. Doc said you were fine. You can go back to work. The nosebleed, you're good. You don't have cancer, because that was the scare. She might have had cancer. And now you're telling me you're going out and buying a car. I was ticked because I had to take on her work as well as mine, so my numbers were
yes,
suffering a little bit, and in sales, your numbers can't suffer no
yeah,
matter what.
yeah,
So, I get it, yeah, and that was a frustration point for all of us who worked there was when she, was like, "I'm gonna go buy a car, I got my doctor's note." I will not forget that.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and that goes hand in hand with being late. Anybody that works for me knows, like, you can't be late. And I will fire you for being chronically late. And again, like, I still respect you, I still love you as a technician, but this is, like, our
A
company
business.
standards, and, like, that punctuality speaks to our integrity. Think about, especially, Jen working ER, 3rd shift is constantly fighting with 1st shift,
Mhm.
2nd shift is fight and half of that is because people are late or they walk in
Yes.
the door 5 minutes late and they sit down and eat their breakfast. Like, it immediately sets the tone for
Mhm.
the next shift. And if you're late, it immediately sets the tone for how your morning is gonna go because you're already 5 steps behind in my eyes, And it
Right.
it annoys people,
Yes.
rightfully so, like, it annoys me, right? I'm the person that's 15 minutes late everywhere I go, and I'm annoyed that I have to sit in my car until the doors are unlocked. But I even 1 minute late, it's late because you're not prepared and ready on the floor.
But we
And
allow
yeah,
it to
it's
happen so much
oh, it's
in the
in some hospital protocols where we've done some consulting and kind of looked at those things exactly, where it's like, "Why is your morale down?" And some of it, like, we experience because we work on the floor with them as part of our consulting, is that people come in late. And they're like 5, 6, 7 minutes late. And so when we visit that with the managers and we look at their policies, there's a grace period. There's a 10-minute grace period where you're not penalized if you're within 10 minutes of your start shift. I was like,
Oh,
number 1, change that because if you give
yeah.
people a grace period, they're going to
They're
take
gonna
it.
take it. Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, it's like you have to change that if that's in your policies because you're just gonna have people pissed off in the very first part of their day because everybody's gonna be late.
Right. And I think that that's
Yeah.
what makes it a little bit more difficult for certain businesses that do have that high standard, that high integrity of you show up, you're on time, you have these certain traits that a lot of people just don't hold up to that high bar of standards anymore. So it's rare. So then when you hold to that standard and you're like 3 strikes and you're done, like if you're 5 minutes late, I know things happen, life happens, people have kids, there's all these things. But when
The
it comes to
Starbucks
work and
line
you're
is
getting
long.
paid for it, I mean, because I know, I'll tell you, I mean, obviously, Michelle knows I'm the same way sometimes where I'm like, oh, I'm going to be like maybe 5 minutes late. I'm going to be like maybe, but when it
It's just
comes
me and you,
to
though.
when it comes to
It's just me and
work,
you.
like when I'm getting paid for it, it's different. I'm going to show
Sure.
up when it's my name, when when I'm showing up and it's my business, that's the standard that I'm going to hold. I'm going to show up
Yes.
15 minutes early and I'm going to try to be a part of rounds so that somebody can get off on time, because that's the other thing too, especially like you were saying in emergency, Jacqueline. It's like people are late and then people just want to go home, but they still have to
Yeah.
round when you're
And they
working
had to
with those
wait
ICU
on you.
patients.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they had to wait on you.
Yeah, and then they're just
And
pissed
it's
off.
yeah, and then everybody's pissed off. And then
Yeah.
patient care is potentially compromised. Like there's all kinds
Yes.
of things that can go hand in hand with that. And I mean, from the employer side to the employee side, like that is the trickle down, right? I can't speak to these big corporations on what their written standards are, but I hire people that share the same passion and goals and core values and work ethic, and that's what I hire for, right? Like, yes, I want you to be skilled and to be a licensed technician, but part of the values, the core values that I have, like that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for leaders and people that care about these things. And
Right.
when they don't, it's the same as a relationship, right? Like when it doesn't align, we have to part ways because that's not helping my team or my company elevate in the hospital space like we're trying to do.
Right.
And if I keep having people that break the rules and, don't follow these standards, which I don't even consider that high of standards. This is just normal, like
Normal.
show up on time.
Right.
Yeah,
These
and
are
I mean,
normal standards.
yeah, and you guys are the last line of defense. So the last line of defense needs to show up, and the last line of defense needs to be on time.
Yes.
Like, that makes 100% sense. But like you said, when it's in a
And staying
chronic
busy, like
thing,
it's so much a part of our reputation and your personal reputation too. Like
yes,
I don't try to take it as like, oh, this is all about Action Vet Techs. No, this is about you just as much as it is about Action Vet Techs because this is a community and we're all working together. And, who's to say that you're not going to try to get a job with this hospital or some other hospital? And I don't know if, I'm sure your veterinary community is as small as ours. Everybody knows everybody.
yes.
Right.
Oh
And
yeah.
if you show up with your bad attitude and you're chronically late and you're chronically absent, it's going to be hard to get a job.
Yes. I mean, I've literally had that situation happen with somebody specifically who chronically called out late all the time, still does, at one of the hospitals that I do relief at. And then this person asked me if I would be a reference for them
Yeah.
at a different clinic that I had worked at. And I
Yeah,
straight
yeah, but
up,
I'm gonna say this.
yeah, I mean, and this person asked me on the treatment floor in front of everyone, and
Oh,
I don't lie, I don't make things up, I don't sugarcoat anything, and I literally
what'd
said
you
and
do?
I said, I I said, "I would if you didn't call out, as if you can promise me that you wouldn't call out there as much as you call out here, because
Oh,
that's
damn, Jen.
that's not, like, you can't do that because you call out too much." And this person was like, "Well, I have a chronic medical problem." And I said, "That doesn't matter. That doesn't mean anything." I said, "This other clinic is way more short-staffed than the one that we're working at right now. So if you call out at that clinic, you're really screwing people over." And I said, "You screw people over here when you call out that much." "Yeah, but there's a reason." "Okay, but it doesn't matter what the reason is if you're not going to show up. Why am I gonna recommend you?" And then this person dropped the conversation and then went to somebody else and cried about it and said that I was basically a bitch and that I just didn't understand. And I, you know, people
So
are
were
gonna,
you?
huh?
Were you? Were you
I
a
Was
bitch about it?
were you strong?
I don't think I was. No, I just said the truth. That's what I told her. I literally said, you know, it doesn't matter. I said, as a business owner and somebody who's well known in this area, I'm not going to refer people that I don't think are going to be good for the job or have good work ethic or don't have good work ethic or just not going to show up. And like Jacqueline said, this person was like, "Well, I have a chronic medical problem." That doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like I mean,
It does
that's,
matter. It does matter. We shouldn't dismiss medical conditions.
well, I was going
However,
to say,
I think we should, if there is a person that has chronic medical conditions, I think you have to choose the job that that fits your condition, right? And same
Yes.
with like childcare, same with your priorities, right? That inhibit you from showing up to the job that you signed up for.
Right.
And like when you're supposed to work, you know your schedule ahead of time before you're hired. So the expectations are already there. So for people, I have empathy for people with medical conditions for sure. But I know that it's likely not like this kind of work. Like relief work isn't for you in that case. And you need to choose a job that is going to fit your condition.
Well, I
And
guess
maybe that's remote work or maybe that's a blend of,
A salary
being your own
position.
business or yeah,
well, and the
somewhere
way
where
that
there's not people depending on you.
right,
Where you
and the
have
way
like goals and you just got to get your job done for the week or
just the way that
something.
I was trying to
Yeah.
explain it was more of just like it like I understand that you want this other job, but if you can't show up for the job, then you're not going to last long there because this job will
Yes.
fire you.
Yes.
Is also what I said too. I was like, you're not going to be able to get away with it like you have at this clinic that you're working at because you still work here. But this clinic isn't going to be able to put up with it because they're so short staffed already. So, and I guess that's what I meant, like when it didn't matter. Obviously, medical conditions matter. I mean, I've been pregnant this whole time, and that's been really difficult for me sometimes on shift and showing up for the shift and things like that. But I just meant it more of like, if I know that you're not going to show up for the job consistently, then I can't in good conscience refer you
Which is
or
fair. And I think that's
be a
fair
reference.
feedback if somebody's gonna ask for a reference. I think that's fair feedback to give your reason why, like, I would maybe sandwich it with some kind things and say, "You are a great technician, however, like, this is important, piece of being a good employee and
Right.
work ethic that's of high value to me, and working with you, this has affected our work environment, so I
Yeah.
can't consciously um, refer you."
Yeah.
Yeah, my thing is like she probably didn't like hearing it in front of other people. That's probably the other
True.
part was she probably didn't want to hear it in front of other people. But Jen, I'm guilty. I did the same thing to a girl one time who interviewed at my last clinic I was working at. She was interviewing to take my spot when I was leaving. And I just so happened to know her. And I've seen her jump from clinic to clinic to clinic to clinic. And I saw a copy of her resume and I loved my clinic. I wanted to leave them in good hands. And my doctors, my DVMs are all out in the surgery room with her. And I called her out in front of everybody because she was like, "Oh, I worked for ABC Clinic for 7 years." I'm like, "No, you didn't, because I worked with you over here during that time." I was like, "You're lying on your resume." And I called her out in front of everybody. So I feel like there's some passion behind that. And she did not get the job. There's passion behind it. But then my office manager is like, "Michelle, did you have to do it
Mm,
in front of everybody?" I'm like, "Well,
yeah.
she's lying to everybody. Like, yes, justice must be served. I don't
Yeah.
want you guys hiring her because she's lying on her
Justice
resume."
must be served.
I have a very strong sense of justice, so my therapist says. So I didn't want her coming in and, lying, coming in on a lie. So I did the same thing in front of everybody, just like you did. I was like, "Oh, no, you don't." And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I mean, she asked me in front of everybody, so
okay, yeah. So
don't
She
she
did
ask
asked
me
you.
ask
if you
you in
I
don't
front
just
of
jumped in.
everyone. Yeah,
I
she
just
asked
jumped
you in
in.
front of everyone.
Okay,
I
yeah.
definitely wasn't trying to be mean. That's not something that I ever try to do, but I do give people constructive criticism. Even my best friends, even my really really good friends, and some people take it a little bit easier than others. Um, but it also just kind of depends on your relationship with them too. So that can have something to do with it as well. But I was just getting back to what Jacqueline had said about you got to make sure that people are going to show up and that they're going to show up on time because it is a big part of the business. It's the whole point of her relief business is
Yeah.
you got to show up because you are showing up for people who are on vacation, on maternity leave, people who just can't be there at that time, or people who go to conferences. I remember I've done relief for like a week so that the technicians and the practice managers could go to a conference.
Oh.
And so if you
And we
don't show
also,
up,
yeah, the whole thing is, it's a behavior. This isn't really a skill. Like it's a behavior, right? And what you're not changing, you're choosing. You're choosing to be late. if you can't manage your time in a way to know, like, we're adults, right? Like, we know what the commute is. We know what the obstacles might be with traffic. It's not the first time you've driven or had to be somewhere on time. And this is a lot of what managing people is behavior and kind of, reeling everybody in on like work ethic and those kind of things. Like you have
Right.
to make changes to achieve the behavior that we need for you to stay in this company.
Right.
And so it's a choice at the end of the day. Behavior is a language.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean,
And
that's absolutely
people have
true.
these patterns, and I know, I've even spoken to managers because it's the top down too, right? If you're in a hospital culture where
Yes.
your leaders are
Yes.
late,
Yes.
that is a trickle down effect. Well, they're doing
Yes.
it, so I
So can
you
I.
know, so can I.
Yeah.
And then you have people who had really great work ethic, and now they have leaders that are doing, or they're easily influenced by their environment, right? So they might have been like really great with their work ethic, and now they've been knocked down because everybody else is doing it.
Right.
So again, that's why I like hold everybody to the same standard of this is who we are, this is what we do, and if you're not, you don't work for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And like
Yeah.
you said, if your managers and your supervisors aren't holding up to that standard, then, people think in their head, why should I? What am I doing? If
Yeah.
you guys are hiring people or if you guys are promoting people like this, why am I even trying?
Mhm. Yeah.
So there was something that we talked about levels, training levels.
Ooh.
Mhm.
So do you have that in your company, Jacqueline? The
Not
different training levels?
not specifically as levels, but I do know all of my employees on a level to know like you're qualified to work in specialty anesthesia. You are not qualified to be an ER because you've never worked in ER. You've only ever worked in GP. Um, and so I guess I have criteria in that way of like I'm not going to send a technician to specialty anesthesia that's only ever worked in a GP, you know, because that's
Yeah,
a
that'd be
different
scary.
level of anesthesia that you need and a different level of patient care, right? Like you probably need to know ventilators, you need to know multimodal anesthesia. There's going to be patients with a lot of different comorbidities that you probably haven't seen in a GP before. It- so I guess not formality of levels, but if somebody has signed up for a shift, or they even know this when I interview them, like that you're qualified or not to take these shifts. Now, we do have training potential. So if somebody has like a little bit of exposure or they've got like a lot of experience, say in ER and they used to do ER surgeries and they worked in GP and there's specialty anesthesia available, most of the managers will work with us knowing like we have skilled RVTs and they are usually very trainable. So we'll set up like training shifts with them at a discounted rate. So I discount the hospital and I pay the technicians less for this because it's like an investment, right?
Okay.
And we also have to make sure that they're a good fit. So I don't
Right.
feel like charging them full price for a role that they're not really able to fill completely. Like, yes, you're getting a technician, but they're not right out the
Experience.
gate ready to go on that level without training in your specific department. So I've definitely arranged that, and that's temporary. That's usually like maybe 3, 4 shifts, sometimes just maybe 1 or 2 depending on the person, and then they're able to go in and at least have good foundation of their workflow and their expectations for that hospital and what they can and can't use them for, or if it's
Okay.
just not gonna be a good fit.
Okay. No, that's smart because I feel like I
Yeah.
just saw recently, I would say a couple weeks ago, I feel like I saw on one of the vet tech Facebook groups that they had signed up for a relief company and they were going into ER shifts that they had willingly signed up for. And they're like, so I've never done ER before. Anybody have any tips or tricks? And I was thinking in my head, like, oh my gosh, how brave, first of all, is this person for doing a relief
I wouldn't do it.
shift and never been working in ER before. I'm not that brave as like relief to do something like that. And then I kind of was even thinking in my head, like, how is this company even kind of allowing this? That, I mean, so it's like,
Yeah,
you know,
is it
how, like,
filtered in any way? Yeah,
yeah, are they
do they
vetting
vet
these
them
people
as
at
far as
all?
if they're qualified? Um, yeah, yeah, that's something that I don't, and I tell hospitals, like, I'm not sending you a warm body.
Right.
And that, could be the difference on, like, some clinics just want a warm body. And that's become a reality over my 7 years of business too.
Really?
Oh,
And what I've, realized, like, as much value as I hold on, like, "No, I'm sending you this really great technician who can
yeah.
probably do the job of 3 employees."
Yeah.
Um, and it's like, "No, we just need somebody to do rooms." And I'm not saying that rooms is a warm body, but it's like they literally just need a body because
Mm,
they're so short-staffed and they don't care who it is. They're like, "Send me a kennel staff, send me, whoever." And I'm like, "That's not what we do." So on the other end of, like, sometimes are we overqualified for some clinics? Yes, we are. And our technicians, they
That's
don't
not a
want
bad
those
thing.
jobs either. They don't want those jobs.
no.
They don't wanna be a warm body in a clinic. They wanna do technician things. They wanna, be helpful and productive in patient care. So
Yeah.
that's a reality. And I think sometimes ER gets desperate too.
Oh, yeah.
And and there is definitely use for just having hands, having a gopher, as I call them, like, "Can you get me this? Can you get me that?" Those are helpful, or keeping up with laundry, or, cleaning cages, like, those are helpful people, and we need them.
Yeah, I mean, and I do that too. Even though
Yeah, we do too.
I have
We
high
have
skill
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
levels, if there's not much to do, or if there's a cleaning list at the end of the day, I've
Yeah, but if
done
you're
the
busy and
trash
you've
and
got 10 patients to
yeah,
yourself,
right,
like, you're not doing those things because your job is patient care. That's what
right.
I mean on, like,
Yeah,
if you're insanely busy, like, there is a need for hands.
right. Right. Yeah. Um Also curious, have you ever had a technician where if they were asked to do something that they felt was below their means and they were like, "Oh, no, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm
Oh,
not here
no.
to do that."
No,
Is
if
it
I
more of
ever
just
heard
like,
yeah, if I ever heard of one of my technicians saying that, they would be fired immediately, and I would cover the rest of
Damn.
their shifts.
"Okay,
Yeah, and that's
Damn.
I mean,
good."
it's again, it's in our interview, it's in writing in our policies. Like, if there is nothing to do, we walk dogs, we clean cages, we
Yeah,
do callbacks, we stock, we mop floors. Like,
done all those things. Yep.
there's nothing that we won't do. And yeah, that whole, like, it's not my job, that's not in our language.
Right. Good.
I mean, it's different if somebody's like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
If you show me how to do that, like for callbacks or something, and you got to,
Right.
write notes in their system and you haven't done it before, that's different. But you're
Right.
not saying, like, oh no, that's
Oh,
not
no, I
my
don't
job.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah. If somebody
Yeah.
said that, they're out.
I think the only thing I'm gonna say, there is one time where it wasn't me saying, "No, that's not my job," or no, it was it was an extremely aggressive German Shepherd, and the owners couldn't get out of the car, and it was they had assigned me to that patient, and they were like,
Pregnant?
"No, no, no, this was before I was
Before you were pregnant.
pregnant."
I was gonna say, that's a
That was
little,
my
like,
next question.
actually, jeez.
You know what? I might have actually been pregnant. It might have been right when I found out I was pregnant. It might have been actually, but I will say,
Ew.
so they
Not
assigned
like
me, but
obviously
they didn't
pregnant like
know.
you are now.
No, no, but they also they didn't know that this patient, so it was an urgent care that made appointments. And so they had assigned me automatically. They didn't know that the patient was aggressive until after until then they were like, "Oh, well, they can't get the patient out of the car." So the CSR came back and he was like, "So the owner wants us to do like the exam and he wants a tech to come out and triage and do vitals in the car." And I immediately was like, I don't do that. I don't feel comfortable with that. That is not something that I do. If that's something that you guys want to be done, I would suggest maybe assigning somebody else that would feel more comfortable doing that because I don't do that. And they were awesome. They were like, "Oh, no, no, no. We won't. We don't do that. We will not allow that. No."
We as a hospital don't do that. Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
like, "Absolutely not. Like, no, we're not going to do that." And I said, "Okay, good. I just don't feel comfortable doing that. I just,"
Yeah.
and that was like the only thing that I've actually been like, I'm going to say no before anyone even says anything for me. And they were like, "Oh, yeah, no,
That's
we're not
fair.
going to make you do that." I was like, "Okay, thanks."
That's fair.
That was pretty much it.
Yeah. I
But
can't help but wonder in certain situations if the hospital itself has those protocols where we don't do each other's jobs. Because I did work, we were in the pre-record, we were talking about a clinic I worked at before the doctor was extremely old, and we lived off relief docs. And that very same clinic, the technicians did not answer the phones there, like only receptionists. Like they were very, very strict on who had what, rules.
Sure. Yeah.
And I remember my lead tech was like, "Don't ever answer the phone." I'm like, "Okay, no problem, I won't do it." I was like, "Yeah,
oh,
no
yeah.
problem, I won't do it." And so we had a relief doctor come in, and phones ringing and ringing and ringing, and the relief doctor yelled at me for not answering it. I'll never forget. She turned around, she's like, "We're a team. We need to answer that." I'm like, but
Yeah,
she'll
that's how
yell at
I would have
me.
been.
Like,
Yeah. If it rings
yeah.
twice, I'm like looking for the closest phone to answer it. That's how my like just intuition is, or how I was raised, I guess, in the clinics I've been in.
It was hard for me not to. It was an adjusting period. It really
I
was.
bet.
But they were kind of, because we were stretched out to our license, they were very strict on who did what. I don't think I ever did laundry there. I don't think I ever cleaned a kennel there.
Oh
The
wow.
LVTs
Wow.
were at the top of their license, and they had, "This is your job, this is your job. Don't interfere with other people's jobs." So I don't think I ever answered the phone there. It was hard for me because I
They
mean,
must have
at
been
all
very well staffed.
we were very well staffed. We had a very well-oiled machine. Everybody had worked with each other for years and years. Like, I think the person with the lowest seniority over me was 8 years there.
Wow.
So everybody, yeah, knew their job
Yeah.
really well. And because our
Yeah.
doctor was, again, 100 years old, everybody was stuck in their ways of what they were going to do and not going to do. But I just remember I got caught right in the crosshairs between my head tech telling me, "Don't do this," and a relief DVM pointing at me and like, "You need to answer that." I'm like, "Oh, what do I
Oh,
do?"
gosh.
Yeah. So
We don't do
I
that
wonder.
here.
Stuck between
Yeah.
a rock and a hard place right there.
Yeah. I'll never forget that. Yeah, that was, oof, yeah. So, I mean, sometimes there could be situations like that too, where the hospital has this person will only do this role. You
Yeah,
know,
but that's why as a relief person, it's really important that you go in and then you have those conversations and, with, somebody who's either the lead and you're like, I really would like to know what your specific protocols are. Because I mean, I had one clinic where I was my first day and I only been there a couple of hours and I was helping and then somebody came up and was like, "We need help with triage." And the gal was like, "Do you feel comfortable triaging?" And I was like, "I do. I just don't know your protocol because every single hospital I've worked for has had a different protocol and I haven't learned your protocol yet." I was like, "But if you're okay with me just going up there and winging it and just triaging how I would triage and you're not going to yell at me for it, I can do that." And they were like, "Go for it. Do it." And I was like, "And then after that, then you can teach me what your protocol is." And they're like, "Sounds great. We just need your help real quick." It's like, okay. So it's like one of those things too, where I always say, I can totally do that, but I don't know your protocol. So as long as you're okay with me kind of winging it, I'll do whatever you need me to do. And they're like, "For now, yes, we just need triage." I'm like, okay. So those are things that you just have to know when you walk in the door, which is why it's probably, Jacqueline, you recommend at least for their first shift to go in early and to have those conversations.
Yeah, and I try to get as much information from the clinic in advance anyway on what their expectations of us as relief techs are. And I put it in like in our system has a profile that gives like information of like what kind of software they have, what their labs are, and then there's a section where I can put in the notes on what they want from us. Like
okay.
do they only want us helping with surgery? Do they only want us in treatments? Do they only want us on tech appointments? And
Mm,
what does that look like? Do we enter charges? Do we do estimates, client communication? Getting as many expectations as I can in advance and giving them a point of contact so when they arrive, that person is like, here's where our stuff is who. That's another hard part of working relief is
yeah.
nobody has name tags. And I
Yeah.
tell my techs,
Ugh,
like, find out who you're working with because not everybody's labeled. And
right.
even if they're an assistant, like there's different levels of what they're allowed to do. And just make sure you know who you're working with and what they're allowed to do.
So I also wanted to talk about the fact that you had said that you reach out to both the managers of the hospitals that you guys work for to ask how your employees are doing. And then you also get your employees' feedback on how they felt working in the hospitals. Um, and so I thought that was interesting because that was one of the biggest things that we had also discussed on that chill and spill was obviously these hospitals are giving feedback on the people that they're sending out at these relief companies, but are they doing the same with the employees? Are they asking the employees, "Do you feel comfortable working in this hospital?" Like, is it but are they seeing both sides of it? And it sounds like that's something that you definitely do.
It's something that I do. Obviously, I can't speak on these other systems and what they do.
Right.
But yeah, it's important for me. Again, it's like relationships. We're building a relationship. And the hospitals that we work for, like we've worked for them for years. And the reason is because, I mean, I believe because one, we have quality techs and we do a great job, but also the communication. Like I'm tight with all the supervisors and the managers of each hospital that we work in. And if they have an issue with my employee, they can bring it to me. And
Right.
it's not on them to take care of, you know? And that's also the nice thing about relief from a hospital perspective on like, this is not an employee that you have to manage.
Right.
And if you have an issue, that falls back on me to address and correct. And if it's not corrected, then I replace. I send them a different technician. Or if it's a
Right.
personality conflict, it's happened before where the
Yeah.
technician is, you know, skilled and able to do the job just fine, but they butted heads with somebody. And it was mutually, one of them was funny. It was because it was the same, almost at the same time. The doctor had reached out to me and my technician said, I don't think this is going to work. We just butted heads all day.
Oh,
And it was a mutual, like, they didn't want each other, and they in that case, we canceled the shifts, but I sent them a different tech.
okay.
So that happens, and that's also why personality is important, but
Yeah.
I can't guarantee it. We're all still humans at the end of the day, and that particular technician, I didn't fire her for that
Right.
because number 1, I love her character. And I know her enough to know that that's not gonna be repeated, and
Right.
that was an isolated incident, you know, with an isolated individual, versus there have been other technicians where it's like, "Okay, you had conflict in one place, so maybe that's not a good fit. So let's try this other place." And if there's conflict there, then I kinda know that that's a pattern, and
Mm,
that's probably gonna be a continued conflict. And in the times that I've given 3rd chances, I've usually been, you know, like I shouldn't have gave a 3rd chance, you know? But I
yeah.
also that goes back to the relationships that we have with hospitals, right? And an understanding that I have with the supervisors, and I have that conversation with them, like, "Do you wanna give them another try?" And we decide together, like, the supervisor of that hospital and myself, on giving them another try. We give them the feedback. We say, here's what needs to change, and here's how you're coming across. Um, and if it doesn't change, then they got to move on because that can also make you not a good fit for relief work.
Okay. Because I was going to
Yeah.
say, if you see those patterns or if you're hearing something specifically, are you willing to give constructive criticism and
Yep.
willing to work on it with that person? Or are you kind
The
of
first
just
thing I
saying,
do,
like, okay,
the first thing I do is ask my employee, tell me what happened with so and so, because
okay,
I'll get the details from the supervisor.
Mhm.
And it's not like I go to my employee and say, like, you did this, this, and this, and here's what needs to happen. No, I
Right.
need to hear from my employee first
Yeah.
because there's perspectives and then there's reality.
Right.
And
True.
then there's like perspective is reality, right? Because it's how somebody received you.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then there's
Yes.
feelings.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've done enough peer reviews to and hear feedback and when I've heard things, I've automatically been like, that is either not true or that is not like that is no one's ever described me that way. Things like that. And you're just like, are they lying? Are they making things up? And then you have to think about it, really think about it. And you're like, people don't necessarily lie or make things up. It's how they perceived you, whether
It's
you
how they
like it or
experience you.
not.
Yes. I have received
So,
that feedback. I, you know, am a bold personality and I in my career have been like, Jacqueline, like you can't so and so is offended by this or when things get busy you get bold and my
yeah.
tone changes, right? I become more direct.
Yes.
And some people, when you're like fun and positive and then things get serious and then suddenly you're very direct,
Yes.
they can't receive that as well and it hurts their feelings. And
Mhm.
that's what it all comes down to, right? Like you've offended somebody. And so then it comes back to being aware of yourself. And that's where I give the employee the opportunity with that feedback. It's like, I don't mind a bold personality and a direct person, but we have to be aware of the people that we're working with. It's not their
Right.
job to adapt to us.
Yes.
We have to adapt to them and be sensitive to every personality we're working with, as they
Yes.
should too. I mean, everybody should be aware of themselves.
Right. Right, exactly. And that's kind of something, like I said, I think every single one of us have had to do and you have to sit in it and you can't get defensive and you can't be like, that's not true, like and you can't get angry. I mean, you can feel those things, but then you have to sit in it and then you have to think, okay, what have I done? How could I have come off that somebody else would perceive me that way? And how can I change it?
Mhm.
To make sure that they don't perceive me that way anymore. And then because then you have people that are like, I am who I am, and that's me, and nothing's ever
Mm,
going to change. And it's like there's a
mm,
difference between your personality and who you are, and then your professionalism and how well you work with people at the same time. And yeah, like you said, yeah, at the end of the day, some personalities just don't clash, and
Sure.
that's going to happen, and you just kind of wash away with it and move on to the next. But
Yes.
sometimes if there's a pattern and people are saying the same things over and over again, you really, as much as you hate it, and this isn't just for relief, I feel like this is just for anybody
Any
who's working
job
in
that
the
you're
field.
working in teams
Yeah.
with
Yep.
people, like from multiple different backgrounds, ages, anything, right? Like it's such a diverse dynamic to work in when you're working in big teams. The other piece of that is mostly about being aware of yourself. And anytime I give that feedback and you want to be defensive, it's usually because that's not what you meant to do. It
Right.
wasn't your intent. And so
Right.
that's why people get defensive. It's like, oh no, I didn't mean it that way, or that's not at all what I meant. And it's like, okay, I understand that, but that's how it was received. And so that's what we have to deal with. And that's what we have to look at moving forward that
Yes.
even though you don't mean to, you are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it takes work. I mean, it's not easy. Again, I've had feedback over my years of working in people and I really have to put effort into it as well. So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, me too. I've been told that I'm bold and that I'm intimidating and that some people are scared of me. Like I've had like some feedback of people are like they're afraid to even approach me
What?
sometimes because yeah, like that hurts me. I don't want
You're
that.
sweet as Southern Pie, Jen. Like,
I mean, I think just like in certain situations like Jacqueline was saying like when things happen and I'm so focused on something and then somebody else comes up to me and interrupts me or they're doing something,
Fair.
I'm not going to be smiley Jen like, yeah, what do you need? I'm I know sometimes I can be like that resting bitch face and being like, what do you want? Why are you bothering me? I'm busy kind of thing. So like those are things where sometimes I have to just be like, okay, remember, like you have to, I mean, because at the end of the day, like Jacqueline said, we're all human beings. None of us are perfect, especially in high stress situations. And I've been in the middle of a stat and I've had doctors that I absolutely love and they're yelling at me, because maybe I'm not fast enough or maybe, like if I couldn't intubate and then, but you can't take those things personally because it's just, we're all human beings. We're in a high strung environment. We're trying to save this life. So if
I
somebody
mean,
snaps at you or
yeah.
something like that,
I mean, you
you
can come full circle on it too. What the other piece that doesn't happen is that people don't say to each other, that hurt my feelings when you said this, or I didn't like that,
yeah,
or,
Oh, people need
what
to.
changed? I don't know. Because it feels confrontational, it's uncomfortable, and especially if you're working with strangers, like, you don't know how somebody's gonna react, and,
yeah,
there have been times that I've, kinda had to filter that between, like, "Okay, is this a interpersonal problem that is just with an individual, or is this a clinic problem or is it an employee problem, right? And there have been times where I've encouraged my employee to speak to that person directly. Like if it's the one person and it's just bothering them, like the way they speak to them. Well, did you tell them like that you feel like you're being talked down to? Because that's where
yeah,
I'm at. If
yeah,
someone is speaking to me in a way that I don't like, but it's difficult, right?
yeah,
To 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 pull someone aside and tell them that it doesn't feel good.
right. Yeah,
'Cause it's
that's true.
unfair to share that. But I do encourage my employees to do that if it's like an isolated incident or if it was a situation just to maybe have that peace. And sometimes they're able to do it and they're like, "Oh my god, I didn't mean that at all." And that's 99% of the time. If you are able to
Yeah,
confront the person and ask them like or tell them like this didn't feel good, 99% of the time they will lower their guard and be like, "I didn't mean that at all. I'm so sorry."
right. Yeah.
And then the
Yep,
other
that's
part of the time they're gonna be like, "Well, you did this," and,
yeah.
it's all your
Yeah.
fault.
I've definitely seen both sides of that. That's for
Both sides.
sure. Yeah.
It's risky.
Well, I mean, I loved to hear your insight on all this, Jacqueline. This was great. I think this was a really good conversation. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention before we get off here?
No, I think you covered it. It was just a matter of I had some insight on like the employer side, and there's a lot of considerations that a lot of companies need to make black and white when it comes to
Hmm.
like standards and like keeping employees. Also consider these platforms have contractors and they're
Yeah.
1099. Some states have like a at will employment, which means I can fire anyone at any time for any reason.
Yes.
And so it doesn't have to be a reason and they can let somebody go, especially as contractors. You're like in or you're out, right? My people are W-2 employees, but I don't really do disciplinary things, right? I am considerate, I give warnings, I talk it out if there's issues. But again, with the patterns, I have to kind of make it like either you're in or you're out because these are our standards and these are our policies and you're not following them.
Yeah.
So when people get let go for the reasons that were talked about, I always want more context on that. Mm.
Yeah. I mean, and that's fair. Yeah. And that's why I I like hearing all sides of the stories, and again, like we've discussed, as an employer, that's something that you have to do is you have to see from all sides of the stories. You can't just automatically go, and blame just one side, just whether you want to be protective of your employee or you just want to be fair to the clinic that you're trying to work with as well. So yeah, it all makes sense. We just want to hear both sides of the story and yeah, I really appreciated your perspective on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Love seeing you guys.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it was nice to have you. It was so great having you on our
Thank
I
chill and
know.
spell. And yeah, maybe we'll have more. We'll see. This was fun.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. And I'll be seeing you soon.
All right. Bye, you guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Endless Journeys, the VetTech Odyssey podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found some valuable insights. If you did, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave us a review and let us know what you think. You can also connect with us on all social media platforms at Endless Journeys, the VetTech Odyssey podcast. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making a positive impact in the veterinary world. We need you guys. Have a great day.